Right.
But I'm thinking
We feed them a high protein diet. But I feed them once a day. Like I said, I pH the water about 6.5 for the fish, and then that's it. We're located, in Lewis Center, on the corner of 23 and 7050 Great Valley Road.
Is this system completely lacking? Just got fire stuff.
As far as the aquaponics,
Yeah.
What, beneficial bacteria?
Yeah.
What you're talking about?
Psyllium.
I mean, you definitely could put it in your bed, but because of the fact that there's nothing to hold it, and it all depends on how it would react with the fish. You have to actually be specific as to what it was. That's another thing, is you have to be careful that what you're putting in there. For instance, our pH up and pH down. We can't use most pH down is citric acid. It's bad for fish and for also for the nitrates and stuff you're trying to create. So we have to get a special pH down that's sorry. It's not citric acid. It's not citric acid based.
Whenever I've had aquariums in the past, the fish have always been better with like a spoonful of aquarium salt because they're completely
Yes.
water based. So with the lack of that, I mean, that doesn't, it's also not good for plants.
exactly.
Yeah,
No
we use
citric for your plants.
They're almost essential for the fish.
But it's
We've never
pretty,
used
it's mined out in Germany.
But that's why we have channel catfish. We started off with tilapia and feeder goldfish. Feeder goldfish is a very bad idea because they're born to die. They have disease already, so it was very eerie. We come in every morning, there'd be one fish floating. So for like 36 fish every day, we come in and there's just one fish. What is going on? We're checking our nitrates and everything.
I mean, guppies in the picture, and that's
That's-
everything in check.
Yeah. Now they barley straw. They wanted us to use barley straw as a filter because we weren't using any other besides the plants. And I think once we got our nitrates and ammonia and everything in check, yeah.
Okay, so these are all of the systems we showed you on there. Flood and drain. This is we just have them here so you can see them a lot easier. This is what I was talking about with the overflow. And everybody can. I'm actually, unless anybody has more questions, you're more than welcome to get up and look around and stuff. We're going to actually take some cuttings if you want to. You don't have to sit around for that if you don't want. But you get to take them home, and I have some stuff for you guys to take home too, just to have. But basically, okay. So this right here would be the flood and drain. Submersible pump in your reservoir pumps up the one side, drains out the other side on a time. Okay, and then your plants will be taking it from the bottom, taking it up from the bottom. Okay, the top feed system. Same thing. Submersible pump in the bottom, but connected to 1/2-inch tubing. Your 1/4-inch feed lines. These are just short and just for idea. Single, elbow, double. Obviously, the less holes, the better because more pressure. So if doing the doubles are what I highly recommend if you have a lot of plants. But basically, you need your stopper. So basically, same concept from the submersible pump to each individual plant. The main difference between the flood and drain and the top feed, amount of water you use. To flood this, you're probably looking at 20 gallons. To top feed 20 plants, you're probably looking at 3 gallons. So, and not to mention the fact that when there's water in this table and a high intensity discharge right above, the evaporation rate is going to be astounding. So it's much, I personally, flood and drain is the easiest. Set it and forget it basically. I personally prefer the top feed over it just because of the efficiency. You're filling or topping off or filling the reservoir much less than you are in that flood and drain system. Okay, flood and drain. This aquaponics is using a flood and drain technique here. Okay, this will be your DWC, whereas you have an oxygen stone in the bottom. That's it. Water. Sometimes people will put tubing on here just to give you an idea of your water level, but it's not necessary. And then just hydrogen clay. Plant. Usually plants are started in rock wool just because it's easy. It holds water. Really easy to use. And then you just basically put your hydrogen in there and backfill around rock wool, and they can coincide. You can plant rock wool in the soil. I start all my outdoor plants in this too, and plant this right in the soil right now. And don't have it all. I put it in compost as well. It's just nice. So basically, you're working on evaporation and the bubble ponics or the bubbling technique when you do water culture. Your aeroponic system. This is a cloning machine, okay? These are neoprene sleeves. These are all cuts of a citrosodrenium that we took that are being misted constantly with oxygenated water. But if you can see here, so this pump with a manifold, and these are your aeroponic misters, okay? Tiny holes forced with high, I mean this is like a 300 gallon per hour pump, so a lot of pressure, forcing oxygen and water through those mister heads. That's aeroponics. A lot of times you'll see aeroponics in a long, like fence post type application, where it's just a line of these down the side spraying constantly. Always adding oxygen on the air stones too.
So what kind was the one at Walt Disney World that was all in one?
That is an NFT.
And
to where
picture?
it just constantly pumps the water through it, or so many times a day it pumps the water through
Yeah,
it.
so basically, and that's in a tray or gutters. I've seen people use gutters, fence post, the plastic fence post, PVC, and it's on an angle. You're pumping obviously to the high point, letting it run right down across the roots, back down to the thing, and doing that constantly. And you can absolutely have a step. So I've seen people do it on like the wire shelves, where they have multiple, one going to the next one, going to the next one, going to the next one, continuously. And even with aquaponics, we're going to try this in our store. We have a 3x6 table. We want to put a table on top of that, pump to the top table, let the top table drain to the next table, and then the next table drain to the aquarium. So, yes?
How interesting.
Right? Absolutely. Okay. And then that's, yes?
I have a lot of leaves with purple foliage. Do they need a different spectrum of light because I put somebody in the different?
Say this again?
I have a lot of plants with purple foliage.
Okay.
Since they use a different pigment for photosynthesis, do they need a different spectrum of light?
With the purple foliage, no, they shouldn't. You should still, I mean, it might be different as far as the exact Kelvin spectrum for tomatoes, but you're still going to fall between the 3,000 and 6,500. Okay, and what it's basically going to be is dependent on what it is, whether it's
Mostly shade plants.
That's what I was just going to ask. You're probably going to stick closer to the 6,500.
Okay.
Yes.
You mentioned snails and rocks would simply exist with those that you actually have now. But if you wanted that for experimenting and food snails,
Yeah.
how would you set that up? Would it be like 3 tanks then?
Yeah, well, basically it would be 2 tanks and your table. So you'd flood your table, it would go from your table to that, what did you call it?
Biomass filter.
Biomass filter, is what it's called, rocks and the snails and everything in it, and then from there that would go back to the aquarium. So yeah, but you could put whatever, I mean, you could put edible snails in there, absolutely. 100%. I mean, that's the thing, it's really tailored to suit whatever you want to do.
Hopefully themselves. But we didn't feed them anything, so I mean, it might be food when we scooped it out of the actual big tank. Yeah.
When I go in the morning, what is the tank there, 40 gallons maybe?
Yeah.
When I go in the morning, they see me and they congregate to the corner. 'Cause we're selling tilapia for people who want to start their own system. I mean, they come to the corner of it and they're like, feed us, feed us, feed
It's
us.
like Shark Week.
They're voracious eaters. I mean, they'll eat anything. But yeah, I mean, I love this system. I really can't say how great it is as far as the efficiency and no waste. And I mean, it's just cool that your food is growing your food. I mean,
And less to know.
what?
And less to know.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. There's no mixing of nutrients. There's no anything like that. So it's you put fish in there, you feed the fish, you cage the water for the fish, and that's it.
And tilapia are freshwater fish.
Tilapia fish.
So you're taking a saltwater tank. and-
No, thank you. No. Plus, you could the salt water for the plants
Yeah.
when really
Very tough.
You talked about, you saw a system where someone just floated a piece of styrofoam with a hole cut in it
Yep.
for the plant.
For the net cut, it's one of these that sits in that hole. Sorry, but smaller. I apologize. I meant to bring one of these smaller. It's like this diameter, about 4 or 6 inches.
Okay.
Cut the hole in the styrofoam.
So do the roots?
They hang actually in the water, as opposed to just flooding them with the water. They actually
But
just
because it's in the basket, the fish don't eat the roots.
well, the fish don't
Actually, they
eat.
will nibble at
They will
it.
nibble at the roots
Clean 'em
because
up.
they'll clean them up for you basically. Whatever any sort of dead organic matters on those, they'll eat that. So the fish will actually work in your favor when you have the roots in there. So it either or, as long as the water is oxygenated, obviously an aquarium has to be, you don't have any problem having the roots dangling. Anybody else have any questions? Yes.
So, then I talked to you,
Uh-huh.
and the wife, then give it a table. I'll be able to grow tomatoes to maturity,
Yeah.
when they get,
Now, you're gonna need to trellis them, obviously, and if you're doing it indoors, to do tomatoes indoors, unless you're doing patio tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, that type of thing, if you're doing beefsteaks or aromas, you're gonna need a lot of light. And if you don't have a window to where you can trellis it up the window, that's when you get into the higher wattage lights that cover more area, because yes, like you said, they're gonna sprawl out everywhere, and, that's pruning as well. I mean, you can prune that tomato plant back and it's only gonna put off a few fruit, instead of letting it go wild and put off a bunch of fruit.
Or bending it, like we said too, because we had a tomato plant that was 7 feet tall in the store, but instead of being tall, we had to go up about a foot and then 6 feet across and trellis. So that way you're not, I mean, if you're vertically limited, you can actually manipulate, that's the nice thing about indoor gardening, I mean, you are Mother Nature. It's hard to fathom because Mother Nature does a ton of stuff. So I get a lot of people that have been gardening outdoors for 20 years and they're like, I'm going to do indoor gardening. And 6 months later, they come back and they're like, I'm never doing indoor gardening again. That's ridiculous. And I'm like, yes, it's very difficult to mimic what Mother Nature does. I mean, Mother Nature's a hard worker. So I mean, air, wind, you're everything to that plant now. So it is difficult, but at the same time, it is so user-friendly, really. I mean, it's something that you can specifically satiate whatever you need in a small amount of space, really. You know, I have customers that their kids have allergies, or and then the only way they know that they can grow, that they can feed their kids something, strawberries is the one main thing I can think of off the top of my head. The only way they can feed their kids strawberries that are pesticide free and guaranteed is if they grow them themselves. He's like, I go to the grocery store, I buy organic stuff, my kids still have reactions. I mean, the only way to control it is right here. You can't rely on others. And the funny thing is, too, is people often ask me, ooh, well, are hydroponic tomatoes good? About 80% of the produce you eat at the grocery store is hydroponically grown, just so you know. So, I mean, it'd be hard for you to be able to you'd have to have a great sense of taste and smell to be able to tell the difference between a hydroponic tomato and naturally grown.
And in the winter, the hydroponic tastes a lot better than the normal.
That's absolutely correct. It's good to. That's a good point. And then because of the fact that you're controlling everything, you can make it as tasty as you want. You can make it. You add carbohydrates to your nutrient mixture to make it higher sugars. There's all sorts of stuff that you can manipulate naturally, basically, to help produce exactly what you want to produce.
What kind of fish are
Those are tilapia. Blue.
they? I've just never seen them swimming.
Those are the blue. There's a couple different that you.
Yes.
In about 6 more months, it'll be about
Well, we have the one up front. We have catfish that are 14 inches long.
Yeah.
They'll shark slap their tails when they're feeding and stuff. I mean, it's great. We're like right next to a Taekwondo place, so these little kids are dragging their parents and coming to see our fish. That was my plan. That was my plan. So, and then this is, I'm sorry, I should have showed you this too. This is an example of an HPS, high pressure sodium, high intensity discharge light. So this is the one that's in the more red and blue spectrum, or red and orange spectrum. That's what it looks like. It needs a separate socket, a different socket than obviously any sort of light you have in your house. That's the remote ballast where that comes in. So, and also I'm going to pass around because on the back, it actually has a nice little breakdown of its majority of its spectrum. This is 400 watts. The bulbs get bigger exponentially as the wattage goes in. So there's a nice little, tells you exactly where the majority of this line was.
Actually, I mean, with a 400-watt light, you're looking at a plant penetration. So if your plant patient's here, your 400-watt light's gonna be about this big. Because it's only gonna penetrate about 2 to 3 feet. And when you get into 600 watts, now you're looking at 3 to 4 feet. And when you get to 1,000 watt, that's 5 foot penetration.
So how much energy draw is that? Is your power gonna?
Well, with that, I think at a 9 cent kilowatts an hour,
Okay.
you're looking at, I believe, like $12 or $13 a month on a 31-day cycle.
These are product
A
catalogs.
1,000-watt light
So
running for
anything
12 hours
in
a
here
day
is in
should
our
cost you
store.
about
But
$40
the
to
nice thing about
$55, just depending on, and I think that was on a 13-cent kilowatt.
The nice thing about these, I'm going to continue to pass them out, but it's you just asked this question, so I made me think of these. This is a product catalog. Anything in it we can get in our store, but in the front of it, it has really, really good information. There's that pH chart. What you just asked about electricity, according to wattage and your kilowatt, it'll tell you how much you'll spend a month. It even breaks it down to the point of 18 hours on, 6 hours off for 30 days.
Depending on which stage you're in.
Good question. Oh, okay.
I need to retain regarding her since the move. Oh, thank you.
And the best she is like, on the slide that you have on the screen right now, I was like, yes, it'll postpone for a minute. But yeah, that's not.
Just get the product catalog.
Oh, we'll get the next information.
It's the information we put out in products and stuff.
And the neighbors. Or even if it was a separate. Yeah. So
You said you were interested in gardening.
so the neighbors down the street are, I don't know, gardening in their. On the way here, I see the left side. Yeah, sure it's good. It should be, that's it.
We didn't give anything.
You can sell you, or you just check them out.
You can get your cap. Ball. And there's the spectrum. Show you what next Yes, action function.
Ever seen the tiny houses?
Air quality.
Yeah, that's what the company's called. They would just talk about like the weeds are out of somebody.
This right here.
That's like 3 of them. Which they should have.
This, but this was 24.5. This is what I recommend. You also have this is basically like
In high school, we can try.
this is the broken down version of that.
This stuff, just because it's lighter.
Right.
Put it full strength and I haven't experimented because I have seen on some people, on some of the warehouses I've gone to, nothing but aquaponics. They do in the hydrogen, this stuff, they can cure rashes and stuff like that. I've yet to see success with it. But it was interesting because if the table floods, they can just grab a bunch of carrots and pour them out. And there you go, now you're ready for your new plant to
But
You're fine. No problem.
No, I mean, I was just. I was like, if anybody who wants to, we can proceed, I'll bring this.
Everyone, before we proceed to the next step, this is a good time to tell you, I do have sheets over there for a, what's it called, program evaluation. If, before you leave, you take a moment and fill those out so that I can share them. I will leave you, that would be great, thank you.
You're really just gonna do a bunch of